All right, history fans, welcome to the Spots of Love podcast. I am your host, Karan. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today, we have a special guest, someone that we've talked to before, but guests always want to know a little bit more about people from the very early years of Barney. So, Larry Baker is here with us. Larry, welcome. Thank you for sitting down with us. How are you doing?
I'm good, Karan. Thank you for having me.
For sure. It's always a pleasure. I kind of shared with you before we started, but it's always a pleasure to talk to um, everyone in the community, fans and cast and crew alike. But it's a little bit more fun for me with cast and crew because we get to hear a little bit more about your personal experiences, which we don't always get a chance to do. Um, and so I'm really excited that you agreed to have a sit down with us. And I just can't say thank you enough for agreeing to do that.
My pleasure.
The way that we always start with our podcast is we just like to go back to the beginning for you as an individual with Barney. Can you tell us what your introduction was with Barney, how you came to be a part of those very first videos?
Well, my partner is Stephen Bates, who was musical director of the original three and also wrote original music for subsequent seasons of the series. We were on a world cruise working, and there was a couple at the table next to us that were thoroughly entertaining and delightful that we got to know and became friends with, and that was Dick and Rose Leach.
Wow.
And so we ended up going to, while they were on the ship, they got off in Tahiti and invited us to dinner at the place that they stayed at. We then went to work in Dallas, and they invited us to their home. That's where we first met Cheryl. And
Wow.
also they took us to their country club and we socialized together. And then we stayed in touch for a couple of years. And so then out of the blue, one December around holiday time, we got a phone call from Dick, and he said, my daughter-in-law was over with the holidays with the kids and was talking about, videos for children and entertainment for children. And she said she has an idea, and she was a teacher and had never done anything like this before. And she had an idea that when we got the first draft, it was a singing, dancing teddy bear.
Mm.
And then her son was very into dinosaurs at the time. Dinosaurs was very big kids. That's when the teddy bear became a dinosaur. And then Barney was born from that. And back in the original days, all the music was public domain, it's called, so that because it was a small budget. Dick Leach literally built a sound stage at Color Dynamics at his office space to do these original three videos. And none of those people had ever done anything like this. So he brought people on and brought Stephen and I on because he knew we did musicals and he knew we had background in theater. So they then, their original thought was, we need a celebrity attached to this so that we can help sell it, because there were so many children's videos out there. And they knew that a name would help introduce it to people, rather than we have Barney the Dinosaur, which people wouldn't understand or know.
Sure.
So they asked us to come up with some names of some men, women, female, male identifying actors that could be a mother, a father, a grandfather, a grandmother. And we thought of Robin Williams, we thought of Dick Van Dyke, and Sandy was our number one choice because she had done theater. We had seen her in Peter Pan.
Yeah.
And she was on the Hogan Family at the time, and we thought she'd be perfect for this.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that the actors' strike was going on at that time, and Sandy was from Texas, and so she would be able to go home and see family, and she'd be going back home to Texas, which is where she started at Dallas Summer Musicals back in the day.
Wow.
In the chorus. So she agreed to do it, and that's how that all came to be, and that's how we got there. And literally we were there the day that Barney came out of the box. This huge box showed up at Color Dynamics, and it was Barney. So we were there when he was unveiled. And, the original Barney doesn't look like what Barney looks like today. He had the square more square snout, and was darker in color. And they kind of figured out what worked better for color for television, and all
Sure.
those things, because we were the guinea pigs figuring out what is
Yeah.
it, how are we gonna make it work.
That's awesome. Do you remember what that moment felt like when that giant box shows up and underneath is this? That's one of in the fan community, that costume has over the years become like one of the most beloved versions, just because of it looked very, very good for what it was, and the time that it was in.
Right.
Obviously, it does look way different than the rounded edges and things that we got later on, but
Right.
it's such a beautiful costume. Do you remember what that moment was like, unveiling that for the first time and seeing that in person?
It was an event because Dick was there and Sandy was there and the director was there. The kids weren't there because we didn't want the kids to necessarily just see the costume. It's
Sure.
like I worked a lot of time for several years at Disney, and Barney's Barney. Barney's not a costume. Barney's
Yeah.
Barney. So you didn't want the children to not see Barney in full regalia. So it literally was, once David Voss put the costume on, that's when Barney really came to life, and we saw what Barney could be. And David really put the physicality to Barney, and because it was just a costume. And sometimes when you see, costume characters, it's not easy to bring those to life. And David certainly did that.
Yeah.
So it was quite the day, because we realized this is really happening now, and Barney's here, so here we go.
And that's awesome. You do make a good point with David Voss, and I think he has respect in the community because they call him like the Stan Lee of Barney, because he started as Barney, but then he did so many other things with the franchise. But and obviously the way he portrayed Barney was far different than how Joyner portrayed him, and then anyone else who got in that suit. But the physicality, like you said, and the talent you have to make things read through this giant suit is something that I think we have to applaud even a little bit more, just because it's just I've done costume character performing because loving Barney and getting into that kind of thing, and it's a hard task. And you got to think, there's no really little to no fans, if there were any fans. There's a heavy suit, and then you want me to dance and move around, and it's just amazing how they were able to do that, and do it so well at the same time.
Well, and they also had to figure out ways, because Barney, I mean, the magic of Barney then was Barney had one working arm.
Yeah.
Do you know this story, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
much like Big Bird.
Yeah, much like Big Bird, because he had to move his mouth as well as then he only had one hand. But then there were times that we didn't have to use the mouth, that then he had another hand.
Yeah.
So when he was able to hug the kids and stuff like that, he was able to use two arms.
Sure.
And we found times when is it going to be this, and when are we going to change it so that he's got his flexibility?
Yeah.
And that was something we figured out in the process.
Awesome. You said in the very beginning Barney was a teddy bear, which is cool to think about, because unless you're a fan who has done a deep dive into the history, you only ever known Barney to be this dinosaur character. With him being a teddy bear, from your knowledge, do you know, was those very early scripts, were they completely different than the early versions of the scripts when Barney was officially a dinosaur? Or, like, meaning, did they switch him out and just make him the dinosaur, or did things drastically have to change?
Things didn't drastically change. There was when we got the original script, there was a lot of rewrites, and and having Sandy in it, there were things that were improvised in the moment, and Sandy's the mom, so her interaction with the children was just so natural and lovely that anytime that real moments happen, we left them in, because it was better than what was on the page. Writing. And so the script was pretty similar. It was also we added, I think there was more humor added as we went along, because Barney was funny and it was fun with the children, and Barney wasn't so serious. So later in the series and such is when Barney did a lot more teaching,
Sure.
than say that he did in the original three, because in the original three he was this magical character that the children brought to life, so that he was only there for fun stuff. But the teaching and all of that came later, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you so you talked about your origin to joining with Barney in that very beginning, and you talked about being involved with musical theater and things like that. Had you ever done, for you and Stephen in the beginning, any type of film work or TV work or anything up to that point?
I had worked on television doing like behind the scenes work, like atmosphere coordinator, stuff like that. Stephen had worked on General Hospital. He
Oh,
was
cool.
there was the fictional nurses ball, which
Okay.
was the AIDS benefit that you're on the General Hospital, and
Hmm.
Stephen Musical directed that every year. So
Cool.
he had experience doing music on television before this.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. This is completely unrelated to Barney, but I grew up as a theater kid as well and wanting to act, and things like that. Do you have, do you have like a favorite musical or a favorite theater show that like is just like the one above everything else?
That I've done.
Yeah.
That I've worked on, because I'm an equity stage manager and have been since the 80s.
Wow.
But gosh, I got to work with Sandy a couple times. Sandy and I got
Cool.
to do South Pacific together, Love Letters together. I worked on with her. And gosh, there's so many. I
Yeah.
mean, I find something to love about all of them that I do.
Yeah.
So Billy Elliot was really special that I got
Nice.
to work on. I worked on the Radio City Christmas show 2 years
Cool.
in Los Angeles. That was wonderful. The Hunchback show at Disneyland was fantastic.
Nice.
So I've had a lot of great experiences, and also did a lot of special events that I got to work on that were great. I
Yeah.
got to work on the Paralympic Games in Salt Lake City. And
Mhm.
so I've got a lot of really, I call them forever memories. They're the
Oh
things that
yeah.
are once upon a time that you get to do, and nothing like it.
Yeah, and those are just the best because they stick with you for
They
the
do.
rest of your life. And
They
yeah,
do.
that's awesome. Um,
The only time I got to work with Barney years later is I was invited to the premiere of the Barney movie in Los
Whoa,
Angeles, and got to be reunited with Barney there,
yeah,
and went up, and Barney talked to me and remembered me, which was it. If you've ever seen Barney in person at an appearance when he talks to you, it's quite amazing,
yeah,
because the technology is fantastic, and Bob West is Barney and the heart and
yes,
soul of Barney. And Cheryl was there. They gave us there were giveaways. There were little miniature Barneys that were wearing sleep clothes. They were wearing pajamas.
oh yeah,
We all got the Barney, the little sleep time Barney, I think he was called. So it
cool,
was fun. It was fun to go back, and it was around that time too where Universal got Barney. So we went to the Universal Studios parade. There was
yeah,
the, it was crazy when it went from a video to all of a sudden it blew up and became what it became, because we truly thought this is going to be a 3-video series that no one's ever going to hear from or see again.
yeah. Just being a small independent production that,
Yeah. And it was
yeah,
very simple. It was very simple
mhm,
compared to the technology of what other videos were doing.
yeah,
Um, we were a very ma and pa kind of homespun production.
yeah,
And to see what it became, and to see him on the cover of Neiman Marcus Christmas catalog,
yes,
was what has happened.
right,
We had
yeah,
no idea.
that's awesome. Um, you seeing Barney at the premiere, was that the first time since leaving after the first 3 videos that you had been around
For me,
Barney like
yes.
in person?
It
Wow.
was. Stephen got to be around because he would, several times a year he would fly to Texas, because they would give him an outline for this TV show,
Mhm.
and say, we want a story about a fire truck, we want a story about a brother and brothers, and we want a
Sure.
story about flying a kite. So then he and Lori Lazarus, his writing partner, would write the songs, and
Yeah.
then they would have to go and present them to the team at Color Dynamics in Texas,
Mhm.
in Plano, and play them and basically audition them to see And so Stephen was more around the Barney team than I was. I was no longer around the team, but he was there regularly and talked about. They had a Barney store. Did you hear about the Barney store at the studio? They
No.
basically had a room that was. It was a Barney store, and you would go in and you get a bag and you could take whatever stuff you wanted
Wow.
of Barney products. And so he would always come home with a bag of Barney stuff,
Of course.
the newest plushes and the newest books and the newest whatever. And he had a daughter at the time, so she was older by that time, so she wasn't into Barney anymore. But anytime we had a friend that had a baby, the baby shower, they knew, all right, Larry and Stephen are coming with the Barney gifts.
Yep.
So we were able to keep the Barney tradition going by sharing it with our friends.
That's awesome. I've never heard, and I've listened to a lot of people talk about Barney from the show. Never heard there was a store just there at the studio.
I don't know that it was a store per se, but there was a Barney product room that the creatives were able to go in and see what was new, because there was always something new. I mean, the collections that I see online are amazing. What people have found, and it's it just, I had no idea there was this much product.
Right.
And the other story that I told Matt, which was fun, is when we originally did Barney, having worked for Disney, I said at the one meeting, I said, Barney should wear costumes.
Yeah.
And he said, no, Barney is Barney. Barney's not going to dress up. Barney's not going to. And so I went home and we had these sketches of Barney that they used for research and stuff. And I literally took a box of crayons and drew on costume ideas for what Barney would wear. And so that became Barney with the chef hat, Barney with the sailor suit, with the sailor hat. And I just said, and I was thinking ahead saying, for merchandise, it's like Mickey Mouse has thousands and thousands of costumes.
Yeah.
You rarely, even standard Mickey, that's a costume.
For sure.
So, and so that turned into Barney in his tuxedo, Barney, and and there was a person on our staff that just was the Barney costumer that built the Barney clothes, and of course then that became legend, and Barney wore costumes all the time. But originally, the original concept was Barney is Barney. We're not touching him. He just exists like this. And I said, just think of what the possibilities are endless of what Barney can look like. And the other story I told is that we came up with an idea of Barney dancing in a tutu, which that never aired because I just thought it was very much like the Disney, what's the dancing hippos?
I know what you're talking about.
Fantasia, very much was Fantasia. And we had video back in the day of David in the Barney costume with this big tutu dancing ballet and a thing, but that never got used because they just went, that's too far. Barney's not going to do that. So it happened, but nobody ever saw it.
Oh man, we got to track that down.
I know.
That would be cool to see.
Barney did wear a tutu once.
What the funny thing is, in the very last season of the franchise in 2009, he wore a tutu in one of the episodes. A kid threw it on him. Yeah, it threw it on him, and then when he came to life, he was wearing the tutu. I'll see if I can find a picture while we're here. But it's cool that you were the one who said, "Hey, let's put costumes on him," because watching Barney and growing up, that's one of my favorite things was to see Barney out of the park sets or the schoolyard sets and into a different place, but also seeing him wear hats or aprons or whatever it was. It added something to the character that was so subtle, but also I think so important for the longevity of him as a character as well. Yeah,
because even that crazy silver helmet thing he wore in
Three Wishes.
So silly.
Yeah, for sure.
But that added to the fun of it, and just it was fun for the kids as well to see what Barney was going to show up looking like.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think I got the video here. I'm going to see if I can get it. YouTube has a bunch of ads, so you got to wait for those to get through first.
Yeah.
But let's see if I can show you. There we go. Let's see if you can see that.
Oh, there we go. See?
It could have worked.
Oh my God! It came to my dream of Barney in a tutu came to life after all.
Yep, there you go.
All right,
That's awesome.
we did that back in the day.
Yeah, and that would be cool to see that video and put them side by side. That would be really cool to see.
Yeah.
In the very beginning with Barney signing on or agreeing to come on and work on those first few videos, do you remember what it was for you, or was there something specific that played a part in you and maybe also Steven saying, yeah, we'll work on this show with you guys?
It was something new. Dick Leach trusted us implicitly. I mean, I guess originally when he talked to his staff and he said, I met these two guys on a cruise ship and they're going to come work on Barney. And the office was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
So they didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But we had a big musical theater background, and working with Sandy was definitely definitely a highlight. And in fact, I then moved to Los Angeles. I was Sandy's personal assistant for years.
Wow.
We're still friends to this day. I stayed out at her house last year, and
that's amazing.
Yeah, so that friendship lasted all these years, and it all happened because of Barney. So that was a part of it, and also just for us, Stephen always liked being creative, and he loved writing stuff for children. So that worked out, and that he was able to go back and do that after the fact as well, and continue writing. Which I was able to put my 2 cents in every so often and get, some ideas for songs and stuff like that, and some melodies and things like that. So it kept on for a good long time. And, Barney it's the gift that keeps on giving, because he's not going away. And what we see now is that those of you who are raised with Barney are now raising their children with Barney, because it was such a big part of their life. So that's what's so great about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Steven wrote some of my favorite. When I think about, I don't have a favorite Barney song just because there's too many. It just depends on what the day is and how I'm feeling. But all of the songs actually that he wrote are when I think about Barney, are some of my favorite songs of all time. So, yeah.
Well, what was important to him is never talking down to children. It was always elevating things. And I remember there was one time he took one of the songs to them, and they said, because they had educator moms, they had educators in the room that would tell you, comment on things, and one of the times they said, I can't remember the song now, but they said the musical interval was too big for children. So that children, it had to be simple melodies. And then Steven said, well, but when you think of the Disney songs, When You Wish Upon a Star, that's a big interval. Children all know that, and children can sing that, and children can comprehend that. And so that won his argument that it's not about the interval. And so there were those things. There were the times when, the fire truck song was one that I had a hand in, because I said that we added in the tag of the FIRETRUCK.
Yes.
And I said, because then kids are going to realize they just spelled.
Right. Yeah.
So they'll know the song, but this is a way of teaching them without feeling like you're teaching them. Yeah. So they just sing it, and it's a good song, and then they get to that and then go, you just spelled fire truck. That's a big word. Yeah. So there were those kind of things that were fun to put that kind of information and education in there without feeling like you're, sit down, this is a lesson now.
Exactly. That's awesome. The fire truck song was one of my favorites. And in the very beginning, I was upset that they didn't use it more. But then once Hit bought the series and they did that refresh, then they used it a lot more than they had done in those early years of the 90s. But that song, Someone to Love You Forever, is it's like I Love You, just with more words to it, but it captures that same feeling that I really wish they would have used more. They used it on Barney's very last tour they did in 2010. it was sung in that show, and witnessing parents crying with their children at the end of that show with that song because they finally maybe understood what Barney meant and what Barney was what he stood for kids and those kind of things. Those are the reasons why music is so important, and Barney, I think, is as big as he is because of also the music side. So anyone who had a hand in writing those kind of songs for the show, the fire truck song, Friends Are Forever, all those kind of songs really just solidified one, who Barney was. But I work on a children's show myself because of Barney. We've been doing it for 4 years, and we're heavily music influenced as well. And it's because music just speaks to everyone. That's like a universal language for anyone. And then you add educational elements into it, like you said, spelling out those words. Kids are going to pick that up because if it's catchy enough, they're going to sing it, and then they sing it enough, it starts to stick in their brain. And yeah, I'm glad he won that argument and he was able to just do what he does. Because that you need those things in music, and those elements just help so much for young kids especially.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's because sometimes Barney would just be a babysitter for children, but it
Absolutely.
was also parents trusted Barney.
Yes.
You could trust Barney with your children, so
For
that
sure.
you didn't have to worry about what was going on, what they were watching, and what they were getting from it.
For sure. We have to find a way to get I don't know if she would do it, but get Sandy Duncan on the podcast. That she's another person that everyone always wants to hear from, because after those videos, we never saw her again. And we also think like, man, what would the show have been if she stayed on and continued and those kind of things? It would be cool to talk to her from her experience of the show as well. And it's awesome that you keep in touch with her. Is there anyone else from those early years or the Barney franchise that when you were around that you stay in touch with?
I'm back in touch with David and Bob because of Facebook.
Yeah.
So we've been back in touch. And in fact, I wrote to David the first time and I was like, I don't know if you remember me. It's like, oh my God, yes, what? How could I not? So it was truly a special time. And Penny, the choreographer, funny story about Penny, there was another original choreographer. I don't know if you knew this story.
I've heard of it a little bit.
There was a gentleman who started choreographing the original series, and it just wasn't a good fit. He wasn't, because it had to work fast and it also had to be simple, because you had children that were not movie kids. They were not kids from Hollywood. They were kids from Texas that did not have a lot of experience because there wasn't a lot going on there. So you had to be careful with how much information you would give them before their heads would explode. And it was just too much because they can only work so long. And Sandy had done Peter Pan, the tour, with Penny. Penny was in Peter Pan with Sandy.
Wow.
And Penny lived in Texas, right? Yeah, Penny was from Texas. And so while Sandy was doing the show, she called up Penny. It was like, what are you doing? Come and do this thing with me. So that's how that happened. And that's how that was just destined and meant to be, because Penny stayed forever.
Yeah. Everyone always calls her Miss Penny, and they always spoke so highly of her. Everyone, from the very beginning, even to Carrie when he joined and did the tours, and even the children, when you hear from them, they all spoke so highly of her. And I was a kid that I stood in front of the TV and imitated everything Barney did. The Backyard Gang stuff, the PBS stuff. And so I imitated those dance moves and things that she had Barney doing or the kids doing. My daughter does it now with the shows. Sometimes I dance with her, and it just blows her mind that I can do the dances that Barney's doing and that kind of thing. But Miss Penny was truly, everyone on that show was truly a treasure. And I've said it before, Cheryl and Dennis and all those guys that started that show, the way they picked the people that they chose to introduce this show, from the Backyard Gang to the very early PBS series, it was magical how it all came together, and everyone that they chose pretty much is very instrumental into why that character became a success. If any one of those pieces, Bob West or you guys in the very beginning, or David Voss, if any one of those pieces were missing, I don't know if it would be the same thing that it has grown
Yeah.
into be. So it's just
Yeah.
amazing how that came together.
It was lightning in a bottle, I say.
Yeah.
It's because it could have gone really wrong.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
but it didn't. And the in one of the documentaries, you'll see there's a picture. No, it's video, I guess. Of Barney jumping rope. Barney
Yes.
jumping rope, and
Yep.
that's Penny's on one end of the rope, and I'm on the other.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's the behind the scenes because you just see Barney jumping, but
Yeah.
in the long shots, you see Penny and I
Wow.
turning the rope for Barney.
That is awesome. That's awesome. I've seen that video. Obviously that was in Three Wishes, and I've seen that behind the scenes video
Yeah.
many times and had no idea it was you two there.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
us.
That's awesome. Do you have, working with the kids on that show and those kind of things, when you were doing those first videos, is there a favorite part of your time with that production that sticks to you more than everything else, or is it kind of all just together a collective, just overall enjoyable experience for you?
I like the backyard stuff with Sandy and the kids in the pool and stuff like that, because there was a song in there that Sandy had. We came up with the idea of just adding some steps to it, like Sandy doing a little dance thing around the yard.
Oh, sure.
And I said, why don't you put in some steps from My One and Only? Because she did My One and Only, the musical with Tommy Tune. And there was a whole scene in the water that she was splashing around the water. And I said, it'd be really fun for like the people in the know that from the Broadway community to go, oh, Sandy's doing steps from My One and Only in the Barney series.
Yeah.
So there were things like that were fun. It was always, and you probably know, but in the birthday party for Dad, the other parents, the neighbors that are in the yard, those are all the moms and dads and grandmas of the kids. In the show.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought they might have been like crew members or something. Had no idea those were their parents.
No, those are the parents of the kids.
Wow.
It was really fun. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So next time you watch, go, oh, that must be her mother. That must be.
Yeah.
And I think there's a grandma in there too. I'm almost sure. The little one's grandma, I think, is in there with her mom.
Wow.
I think so.
That's amazing.
But that was fun too, because the parents were a big part of it, because there were times because they had to trust us as well, because we were spending a lot of time with their children, and it was a lot of work and a lot of pressure for the kids.
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing that I always applaud with Barney, because, I mentioned my show, we also cast local children in our show. And much like the very beginning of Barney, these kids aren't professionals at all. They've maybe done some school stuff, or they're in dance or sports. Some of them have no experience. And I think that's one of the cool things that Barney provided, that I try to provide for the new generation, is opportunity to do something that you haven't done before. And that's one thing that Barney taught me growing up, is to dream and believe that you can do these things. And I try to introduce that to the kids that we bring on the show. But I've always applauded Barney in that sense, because it was one of the only shows, I think, that employed so many kids like they did, and gave them opportunity, and for those kids to really shine the way they did. And for all of you who had to work with them, it's a very different experience than just what people watch. You have to remember that they're children before they're actors, or they're children before they're dancers and singers. And, those kids also have to work really hard to be that young and do the work that they did. So I always applaud the kid actors who took on those jobs, but all of you behind the scenes that worked with children and know what it's like to work with them and get the shots that you need, and have the grace that they might not always get the line the right way or the move the right way, and still make it an enjoyable experience for them at such a young age is truly amazing also.
Yeah. Well, and it's tough, because you want to, a lot of it was just figuring it out in the moment, so that on paper we had one idea, but then when you see the children in the experience, that this doesn't work for them, and no reason to make them feel bad about something or something they can't do. Just make it something they can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because also we didn't have a lot of time. We had a real time crunch. Sandy was only with us for a limited time. Sandy wasn't with us till the very last shot, because we shot all of Sandy's stuff first. Then all the rest of it was with Barney and the children. So
Yeah.
we had to get it done.
Sandy was only with you, I believe I think you said it before, only like a week, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
And
all our
so,
stuff was done in a week.
wow. How long do you remember how long it took for those first 3 videos from beginning to completion? How long that process was for you guys?
I don't remember now.
Pretty quick though. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fast.
Yeah.
It was fast, and they had a lot to do. And the yeah, I don't remember the time frame.
Yeah. Cool. Um, so you were there only for those first 3 videos. Um, is there a reason why you left after those first few videos and didn't stick around and work more, or
They
what
didn't
happened
ask me back.
Oh, sure, yeah,
I think a lot of it, what they could, because really, as much as they could, they were going with local people,
sure,
because I was from out of town, and Stephen was from out of town. So they would fly Stephen in to do his, to play out the music and stuff like that. But, and also, Stephen didn't teach the kids after that. He would just write the songs and hand them off. And Bob was
oh,
doing a
sure,
lot of that. And Bob Singleton, which I
okay,
watched. You did an episode with Bob.
yes,
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 Bob's great.
I love Bob.
He brought back so many memories hearing Bob, and he
Yeah,
was great. The kids adored him, and he was so good with them. So yeah, um, our allegiance stopped after that, but Stevens continued, and he ended up writing the original songs for lots of that stuff and
yeah,
a lot of the series. And then I think I was telling Matt too that Stephen and I wrote the Barney theme song over lunch one day. That was fun.
really,
That was the kind of thing too, where we knew we had "I Love You," but then
uh-huh.
somebody said, we need a theme song. We need something that we could play at the top of every episode."
Yeah,
And that's when Barney is a Dinosaur came to be,
wow,
because again, it had to be something that was public domain.
sure,
And yeah, we wrote that over lunch one day, and it's stayed on forever.
yeah,
They changed some words, but
yeah,
Barney is a Dinosaur from our imagination stayed on, and so that was fun to be a
that's
part of
awesome.
that.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. Is there a reason why, or was it just because it was just starting out that they leaned more to just only public domain songs or re-lyrics of public domain songs versus
It
getting
was a
like,
lot. It was a lot less expensive because you don't pay for
yeah,
the rights of those.
sure,
So anything else you'd have to pay for and have royalties for, which
yeah,
is what happened on the series. But for the original, it was just, and it's also, I think a part of it too was the homespun, the grounding of the public domain songs, because grandmas knew those songs,
sure,
moms grew up with those songs. So this was something that the family could share that wasn't some new melody
yeah,
idea. So that it really, I think that was intentional to bring everybody together and make it feel like it's a whole family event rather than a song that, like all the original stuff was, that parents didn't know. This parents already were connected to it.
for sure. Yeah, that is a good point. And yeah, it's just great that you can. There's so many, just changing lyrics for a song that has a very familiar melody to it already, and just adding something new to it. It's just easy, especially when you're first starting out. But yeah, you're right. It connects to people in a way because it's been through so many people's childhoods. It's just like
Yeah.
a revisit back to that, and that's obviously the big thing now with nostalgia. That's why we're seeing, the Barneys reemerging and things like that. Nostalgia has always been a big thing. That if you can tap into that, especially with a show like Barney, where parents can buy into it as well because of
And
that.
right.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think that was important.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you know, we're in this new world now where we have this new version of Barney. We've seen Barney change many times. Obviously, the PBS version is very different than the Backyard Gang version, and now we have this animated version of the show. When you saw the news for that, what are your thoughts about this new version of Barney? Do you have any? obviously you don't watch the show or things like that. It's not made for us anymore. But
Right.
do you have any opinion on the way Mattel is going with the show this now?
Well, I haven't seen any of it, but I think that bringing Barney back is great. I think that our country is so divided right now. I think having someone like Barney that tells you that you all belong and everyone's special, and your differences are what makes you great, I think is important, because
Sure.
there's so much social media as well is so much about anger and people not liking things,
Yes.
that Barney teaches you that you belong no matter what. And I think that there's now more than ever, we're ready for that message, and for children, because children can be really negative to each other and can be
Yes.
really opinionated, and the bullying and all of that is such a real thing, and we've seen it develop into terrible situations. And I think,
For sure.
if anything, Barney, as I said, everybody belongs and everybody's special, and you can all benefit from a little more Barney time, because nothing better than a hug and an "I love you" can make everything better. And I think that and bringing that back in any way, shape, or form is only going to be positive.
For sure. Yeah, I completely agree. It's supposed to debut in the fall of this year, and so we'll see how it goes. But the one thing that I've seen with my own kids, and I grew up in my grandma's home daycare, and she still has that. And so what I notice is, anytime someone sees a dinosaur, kids especially, and it's purple and green, it's automatically Barney, regardless.
Yeah.
You just like, even if it's not actually any type of a version of Barney, it's just a regular dinosaur. If those colors are there, everyone just automatically connects that. So obviously he's animated and he looks completely different than what he did before. But when I show my daughter that picture, it's still Barney to her, just like the Backyard Gang one is, just like the one that came later is. So I hope that it's going to be successful with kids. I think they'll resonate to it, because they still love dinosaurs today, just like they have always. And it's cool with my daughter, because for her right now, she's seen every version of Barney that there is, but she's in this phase. She's only 3, and she's in this phase where she only wants to watch the Backyard Gang stuff. Like, it's so cool to see her, because she's never lived in a world where Barney was on TV and a prominent thing. Just from my introductions to her, and she calls it the big one or the dark one. I want to watch the dark one, the big one, and she loves those videos. And I think that also just speaks to, it was a very independent show back then. It was very simple back then. But watching those shows even today, you can tell that they were, years ago, but the timelessness of what Barney and the music and all of that encapsulated, it's 2024, and my 3-year-old daughter is in love with those videos even more than the stuff that came later. And I think that just really speaks to the work that all of you did, and provided to that, for sure.
Wow. I like that.
So on our show here, we always ask all of our guests to bring on some Barney item or something that they own, that they hold near and dear to them, maybe more than other things that you possibly own. Can you show us what you have, for people who's not able to watch the video? Explain what it is and your story behind why you have that specific thing.
So my Barney plushes I no longer have, because Steven's daughter had a baby. So Steven's grandson has the Barneys, Barney, Baby Bop, and BJ. So I don't have them. But I found, and I'm sure you've seen these, but I found this.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. You've seen these, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So I still have in the plastic
the
original 3, which this is what they would come looking like and sell. Wow. I know. Crazy, right?
That's amazing.
I have the original 3.
That's really cool.
I have that, and then I have a song sampler that and I kept this because it has on "Let's Go on an Adventure," which Steven wrote, and so I kept it for that. It's still sealed. I never opened it. These were just
Yeah.
little cassettes they gave out. So that's what
Wow.
I found today, and they're they're a big part of the Barney history. And the original books and stuff were just done so beautifully.
Oh yeah.
Cheryl found that illustrator, and he really had the essence of Barney. They were really fun. The look of them was very colorful, and the children were very animated. And so I hope that that's along the lines of what the new animated series will be like, because
For sure.
the color and the joy of the children is just so evident in all the pictures that were designed.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing those. You
Yeah.
definitely have a treasure, because obviously those early videos, the original releases with Sandy Duncan's picture on them, is
Right.
ones that the fans always clobber to get to on eBay. But to
Yeah.
have the whole package together, still packaged, that's something that fans are always looking for, either the coloring
Yeah.
books or the cassettes, and I don't think I've never seen them still packaged together, anyone selling them or anything. So you
Wow.
definitely have a treasure that's on your hands. I think Andrew, you know of Andrew Olson, I
Oh,
believe.
sure.
So
Yeah.
I think he has maybe one that's sealed that way. I was
I
down at
think
his
so
house
too.
helping him. Yeah.
Yeah.
He usually gets his hands on all the crazy stuff before anyone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
I was at
I gave Andrew, I had a flyer that was made to sell the original Barney series. That was
Okay.
just a flyer you'd get in the mail that
Yeah.
at the time was sent out to schools and to libraries and to churches,
Mhm.
is how the original, they tried to sell it and put it out there. So,
Nice.
yeah, that went on to Andrew. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've got some great memories and some fun stuff of that. And somewhere I've got a scrapbook that has fabulous pictures that I've got to find because it's in storage somewhere.
Oh
But
yeah.
that has Barney and his tutu and a lot of behind the scenes stuff that no one's ever seen, because I was always taking pictures back then, and I just
Awesome.
didn't know. We had no idea what this was going to become.
Right.
So, but yeah, and I'm sure you probably saw on Matt's series the picture of Stephen and Sandy and I and Barney and
Yes.
his daughter. That was our Christmas card that year. And we sent our Christmas card before Barney was released. So
Oh
everybody's like,
wow.
what is this?
Yeah.
They had no idea. So
What are
that
you
was
guys doing here?
the introduction to Barney, was on our Christmas card. There
Awesome.
were a couple of Barney photo shoots that were done. And that was around the same time Sandy recorded her pre-show, her pre-video
Oh
chat.
sure.
She would do her direct address stuff.
Wow.
It's funny because the kids got into that too, because she
Yeah.
just was so personable and just talking to you
Yeah.
that there were kids that, you'd have to go back. You have to play that too. You can't just play
Yep.
the episode
Exactly.
to see the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Larry, for agreeing to do this and sitting down with us.
Oh, my pleasure, Kron.
Before we end our podcast, I always ask the same question, just for you specifically. Why Barney? Why do you think this is a character that has stood the test of time? What is it about Barney that maybe speaks to you the most? Just however you want to answer that. Why Barney? Why this character?
Wow. I think because Barney is about acceptance. Barney is about teaching children that they're special. I think Friends Are Forever was a big message that,
Yeah.
things can change and people can come and go, but friends are forever. And Barney was that person, that character that was there for children. Whenever they needed him, he would be there. And I
For
think
sure.
that it was a positive energy, a positive force. And he was just about joy. He was just about love and joy and caring for people and caring for each other. And I think that translated, whether it was to your friends or to your family, it was a positive message that never grows old.
For sure. I love that. I think that's a perfect way to end it here today. Again, I've said it before, but again, thank you again for all the work that you did in those beginning years. Thank you for agreeing to sit and share your experience. It was truly a pleasure of mine and an honor to be able to talk with you.
Oh, thanks. This was fun. Thanks. We should do it again.
We should definitely do it again.
All
We'll
right.
get
Good
maybe
luck
some
with your
people
series.
together. Maybe we'll get some people together and like do like a reunion or something.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
be
Me
cool.
and Bob and David. Yeah,
Yeah, there we
yeah.
go. Yeah,
Fun.
we'll have to put that together.
All
And thank
right.
you for the well wishes on my show. I work. Bob Singleton has done some music for us, which is
Oh,
amazing.
great.
And
I
Stephen
saw a
White
couple
was.
episodes. I watched a couple episodes after I heard from you.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you,
great.
thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. We started the same way as Barney did. We're still very independent and just trying to figure it out. But people
I
like
like the fact that you wear the same costume, you wear the same outfit, because
yes,
I think that too, it's branding.
yes,
It's making something identifiable to the children that
mhm,
they immediately know who you are and are
for
immediately
sure.
comfortable with you.
Thank you. Yeah, the only thing I change is my bow tie each episode, and
Right.
that was my paying homage to Mr. Rogers and him always putting on his cardigan. I just
Uh-huh.
changed that, but yeah, everything else, the colors and all that stuff is what Barney introduced to me that made me stick to that show like I did. And so
Mhm.
we're trying to create a show now for the new generation that does those same things, same messages. And I don't think you can go wrong when you're making things with love behind it for young kids.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
like the educational aspect that you're adding too, because
Thank
it's
you.
great. Do you try stuff out on your daughter first?
My
Is
my
your
kids are
stepdaughter?
my yeah, my kids are my guinea pigs. I have a stepdaughter who's 8 now. She was 5 when I started the show. Onyx was born, she's a 3-year-old. She was born the same year we started putting the show out.
Uh-huh.
And now I have a 10-month-old. So
Congratulations.
they always see all of the stuff, and I know if it works for them, then it's going to work for
Right.
everyone else.
Right.
And she for right now, my youngest daughter, anytime she sees the YouTube logo, she only connects that to Barney and my show. So it's one of those that's getting turned on for her if she sees the YouTube logo. So I don't think that that's a bad thing. So
No.
I'm glad that she sticks to
No.
them the way that she
You
does
have
for sure.
you have your own test market right there at the house.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely,
great because kids are honest. You can't get
definitely,
anything past them. So if they're liking it and they're enjoying it, then you've hit the right market.
absolutely. I completely agree. Well, thank you again, Larry,
My pleasure.
for all of our fans that's watching this show. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And who
I had
knows,
a
maybe,
blast.
yeah, maybe next time for the fans, we'll see you here in your spot of love. Take care, everybody.
All right.